Forced or tricked into working in harsh conditions, often for no pay. If you are a victim or know someone who is, call 911. For more information, call 311 or go to www.nyc.gov. Let's call an end to human trafficking.
Hello, I'm Taxi and Limousine Commissioner David Yaskey. Did you know that New York City taxicabs are required by law to take passengers anywhere in the 5 boroughs, or to Westchester or Nassau County, or to Newark Airport? In fact, a driver can't even ask where you're going before they accept the trip. So if a taxi driver refuses to serve you, call 311 or visit nyc.gov with the license or medallion number. With your help, the TLC is here to make sure you get where you need to go.
This is Sanitation Commissioner John Doherty, reminding you to leash and pick up after your dog. Be considerate to your fellow New Yorkers when walking your dog in the street or in a park. Obey the Pooper Scooper law and avoid a $250 fine. If we all do our part, we can keep New York City clean. Remember, be a responsible pet owner and always pick up after your dog.
You're listening to Radio NYC.
Hi, I'm Rob Walsh, Commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services. Figuring out what permits and licenses are needed in order to start and expand a business in New York City can be a challenging task. That's why we created New York City Business Express. It's a free one-stop website where business owners can access the information they need to open up shop. You can apply online for many permits, settle outstanding fines, and find incentives to lower the cost of doing business. Visit nyc.gov or call 311 and ask for NYC Business Express.
Hi, I'm Seth Diamond, Commissioner of New York City's Department of Homeless Services. Homeless Services can connect you or someone you know who is at risk of homelessness to the DHS Home-Based Program, our one-stop for homelessness prevention, or one of our free law offices. We have over 30 service centers located in the 5 boroughs. To learn more about community-based prevention services that can help New Yorkers prevent eviction and avoid shelter, call 311 or visit nyc.gov.
I'm Kate Levin, Commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs. New York City is the creative capital of the world. Throughout the 5 boroughs, residents and visitors benefit from an extraordinary cultural community that includes more than 700 theater and dance companies, 650 galleries and museums, 96 orchestras, 24 performing arts centers, 5 zoos, 4 botanic gardens, and 1 aquarium. So take in an exhibition, see a performance, or visit a historic site. There's something for everyone, and it's all just around the corner.
Hola, yo soy Adrienne Bailón. Tener una identificación oficial puede ser clave para tu éxito. ¿Quieres abrir una cuenta bancaria? ¿Solicitar un trabajo? Vas a necesitar una identificación oficial para hacer cualquiera de estas cosas. Puedes conseguir una identificación estatal para no conductores y solo cuesta $10. Pero para conseguir una identificación hay unas cosas que vas a necesitar. Visite nyc.gov y busque ID para empezar.
This is Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Remember to dial 311 for all New York City government services and information.
Hi, this is New York City Transportation Commissioner Jeanette Sadakan. For most New Yorkers, our 6,000 miles of streets are our front yards, so we're doing everything we can to make them as safe, attractive, and as sustainable as they can be. By keeping our roads and bridges in good repair, building new public plazas and bike lanes, we're creating world-class streets for a world-class city. Please help us keep our streets safe and smooth by calling 311 to report potholes and other traffic concerns in your neighborhood.
What better way to get some outdoor exercise than rolling up your sleeves and helping care for Brooklyn's Prospect Park? Hi, I'm Emily Lloyd, President of the Prospect Park Alliance. Volunteering at Prospect Park offers many exciting ways to make a difference in the lives of all who benefit from the park. Individuals, families, students, and retirees can all have fun and learn something while helping the park. We provide the training and equipment. You decide how much time you can spare. For more information, call 311 or go online to nyc.gov, and I hope I'll see you soon in beautiful Prospect Park.
If you want to understand what shapes the size of buildings in your neighborhood, you have to understand zoning. And understanding zoning is much easier than you think. Hi, I'm Amanda Burden, New York City Planning Commissioner. The new zoning handbook demystifies zoning with cartoons, illustrations, and photographs. It tells you about zoning for every single district in the entire city. Find out how you can buy the book at nyc.gov.
Did you know that for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, tax time is a great time to get money back from the government? Hi, I'm Consumer Affairs Commissioner Donovan Mintz. If you make less than $57,000 a year, we'll connect you to free in-person or online help to file your taxes so you can get your refund. Visit nyc.gov and search tax prep or call 311. This year you have more options than ever, so go get your refund.
This is Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Remember to dial 311 for all New York City government services and information.
This is Carter Strickland, Environmental Protection Commissioner for New York City. Our restaurant scene is one of the best in the world, serving millions of New Yorkers and tourists every year. If you run a restaurant or food service business, remember to properly empty your grease traps. Pouring grease down the drain or into a city catch basin is illegal and can cause significant costly sewer backups. For a description of grease regulations and information regarding proper disposal methods, visit nyc.gov.
Hola, me llamo Ana y trabajo en el Departamento de Asuntos al Consumidor. A veces puede ser abrumador para administrar su dinero, pero los centros de poder financieros de la ciudad pueden ayudarle a tomar control brindándole asesoramiento financiero profesional, gratuito e individual, ofrecido en toda la ciudad en diferentes idiomas. Nuestros consejeros pueden ayudar a reducir su deuda, preparar un presupuesto, abrir una cuenta bancaria segura y mucho más. Visite nyc.gov para encontrar el centro más cercano o llame al 311 para pedir una cita ya.
I'm Fatima Sharma, Commissioner of the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. New York City is home to people from more than 190 countries. They're our neighbors and co-workers and an essential part of the fabric that makes us the greatest city in the world. My office helps immigrants make New York City their home. In the wake of Hurricane Sandy, we continue to work to make sure that immigrant communities affected by the storm have access to services that will help them recover and rebuild their lives. To learn more, visit nyc.gov or contact 311.
Home is the one place we all expect to be safe, but each day over 1,000 New Yorkers report an incident of domestic violence. Hello, I'm Commissioner Yolanda Jimenez of the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. Victims and their children don't have to suffer in silence. If you or someone you know is a victim of family violence, help is available 24 hours a day in all languages by calling 311 and asking for the New York City Domestic Violence Hotline. In emergencies, call 911.
You're listening to Radio NYC.
Hi, this is Vincent Schiraldi, Commissioner at the New York City Department of Probation. Did you know that state law prohibits unfair discrimination against job applicants with a criminal conviction? Did you also know that the city has taken special steps to ensure that job applicants with a criminal conviction are treated fairly? It's true. For example, there are many job postings where city agencies are prohibited from asking about an applicant's criminal history before or during the first interview. So don't let your past define your future. Consider applying for a job with the city or one of our hundreds of partners. To find out more about what this change in policy means for you, visit nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Bailon. Having an official ID is one of the keys to success. Want to open a bank account? Apply for a job? Register for college soon? You'll need an official ID to do any of these things. Don't drive? Don't worry. You can get a non-driver state ID, and it only costs about $10. But in order to get an ID, there are a few things you'll need, and we're here to help. Go to nyc.gov and click on or search ID to get started.
Soy Iris Jiménez Hernández, vicepresidenta de HHC, su sistema de hospitales públicos. Si tiene 50 años o más, debe hacerse una colonoscopia. Este examen puede prevenir el cáncer y salvarle la vida. En HHC ofrecemos exámenes de colon a un bajo costo o sin costo alguno. Visite nuestro sitio web o marque 311 para el hospital público más cercano.
Hello, this is Commissioner Robert Lamondre from the New York City Department of Buildings. Last year, construction accidents dropped 28% citywide, and that's a good sign that our efforts are making a difference. But we can't stop there. So please, dial 311 if you see a dangerous condition, and our inspectors will investigate. And remember, we must build safe to live safe. Thank you.
This is Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Remember to dial 311 for all New York City government services and information.
Hi, this is Sanitation Commissioner John Doherty. Please use street litter baskets for your candy wrappers, fast food containers, empty coffee cups, for everything except recyclables. Remember, never use litter baskets for garbage from your home or business. That's not what they are there for. Above all, don't litter. For more information on how you can help keep New York City clean, call 311. Let's work together to keep our streets clean.
I'm Rob Walsh, Commissioner of Small Business Services.
And I'm Terrence Holliday, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs. Our veterans served our country, and we are proud to serve them.
If you're a veteran or a veteran spouse looking for a job, stop by the Workforce One Veterans Center at 60 Madison Avenue in Manhattan, or at any of the 15 centers in all 5 boroughs. We work with businesses committed to hiring veterans, which means we have jobs for you. For more information, call 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Carter Strickland, Environmental Protection Commissioner for New York City. There are more than 144,000 catch basins on city streets. This critical infrastructure keeps the city moving by draining stormwater off the streets and into our sewers. But during rainstorms, debris like leaves and other litter gather on the grates, block catch basins, and increase the chance of street flooding. So please, don't litter and keep our catch basins clear. To report a clogged catch basin, call 311. To learn more about DEP and the work we do, go to nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Farley, New York City's Health Commissioner. Hurricane Sandy took a major toll on our city. Strong emotions and stress are normal reactions, but can sometimes feel overwhelming. Most people with these reactions will recover with time and support from friends, family, and community. However, if stress is interfering with your daily life, or if your symptoms get worse or don't go away, call 1-800-LIFENET. LifeNet is a free, confidential helpline available 24/7 with trained staff ready to take your calls. You can also visit www.nyc.gov for more information on coping with the psychological effects of the hurricane, including tips for parents.
You're listening to Radio NYC.
Hello, this is Commissioner Jimenez from the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. People with disabilities are more likely to experience violence at the hands of an intimate partner. New Yorkers with disabilities should not feel alone. Support is available. In New York City, all victims of domestic violence, regardless of their language, immigration status, or disabilities, are offered services to help them regain control over their lives. If you or someone you know is being abused, please call 311 for help.
Hi, I'm Rob Walsh, Commissioner of Small Business Services. If your small business was impacted by Hurricane Sandy, the city is ready to help. We have an emergency loan providing up to $25,000. We can also help businesses apply for federal assistance to up to $2 million. And there are other ways we could help. If your business has been displaced, we could set up free temporary space. And we could also assist in answering insurance questions or replace permits lost during the storm. For more information, go to nyc.gov, call 311, or visit a Business Solutions Center located in any of the 5 boroughs.
This is Robert Dorr, Commissioner of the New York City Department of Social Services. Hurricane Sandy devastated some of New York City's most vibrant communities. If you and your family are affected by the storm, we can help. We can connect you to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as food stamps, public health insurance, or heating assistance.
Marty, how are you?
Sneak down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't got my mini yet.
No, but I've been playing with this. The Samsung. It is so much bigger. Are we ready?
Yes.
Mr. Celli, how's your brother? How's your brother?
Very good, thank you.
Let me settle up.
Good to see you, Rita.
Well, good afternoon. Today we've got good news for New Yorkers who've been hardest hit by Hurricane Sandy, which is why we've got a big crowd. If this was bad news, we wouldn't have a big crowd. But we are thrilled to have Secretary Shaun Donovan from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, who is leading the Obama administration's Sandy recovery team. And I'm happy to say that he has approved a major portion of our city's Sandy Recovery Action Plan. And what that means now, and that's what brings Secretary Donovan back home to New York today, is that HUD is making some $1.77 billion in federal relief funds available to us. And we're going to see that this Sandy relief money starts flowing to homeowners and businesses as soon as possible. It is our goal to get these initial funds to those in the greatest need. There are some procedures that obviously we have to go to make sure that funds go where Congress intended them to go. But we will expedite as to the extent possible, and the money's very close to being ready to go out the door. Let's start with those whose homes were damaged by Sandy. We've already done a lot in this area of housing relief. We've provided temporary shelter to thousands of families who were displaced from their homes. Our pioneering rapid repairs program restored power and heat for upwards of 55,000 New Yorkers, enabling them to get back in their homes and start making further repairs. And we're providing free professional mold abatement through a program funded by the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City and the Robin Hood Foundation and the Red Cross of Greater New York. Now these federal funds will enable us to do even more. HUD has approved $648 million for housing programs in our city allocated in these 4 categories. First, $306 million for rehabilitating and reconstructing 1- and 2-family homes. Second, $225 million for projects in larger multifamily buildings. Third, $108 million to provide emergency backup power systems at the public housing that Sandy damaged. And fourth, $9 million that will provide up to 24 months of rental assistance for families displaced by Sandy. Now, with the exception of the money going to public housing, the New York City Housing Recovery Office and the city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development will manage these funds. In the weeks ahead, we'll announce exactly when and how New Yorkers can register to receive housing grants, loans, and rental assistance. And shortly after you register for this help, we'll assign a housing recovery specialist to you, a person who will work directly with you every step of the way, so that we're not going to leave you out there with a bunch of forms. We're going to give you a real human being that can guide you through the process, and we'd like to make that as simple as we can, consistent with what the law requires. In the meantime, here's what you should do to get ready. You should do your best to assemble documents you'll need concerning, for example, your income, proof of residency, and information about any Sandy-related insurance claims or settlements you may have already received. The information you'll need is described in the press release we're distributing today and will also be detailed online as part of the registration process. Now let's turn to how we'll use these funds, federal funds, to help business owners. HUD is making at least $293 million available for business programs in these four categories. First, $72 million for business loans and grants. Second, $90 million for investments in business resiliency. Third, $90 million for a neighborhood game changer investment competition. And fourth, $41 million for infrastructure and building resiliency technology competitions. The business loans and grant programs, number one on the list I just went through, is the one taking effect most immediately. Starting Monday, May 20th, business owners will be able to apply for loans of up to $150,000 and matching grants of up to $60,000 each. In special circumstances, they'll be able to receive loans and grants totaling up to $1.1 million. And allocations will be handled by NYC Business Solutions, a program of the city's Department of Small Business Services. Business Solutions specialists have already been deeply involved in helping more than 2,400 businesses recover from Sandy. And when you apply, you'll be assigned to an account manager who will help make the application process run smoothly. So you're once again going to have a real human being. We'll release details about these other three categories of Sandy business relief programs in a few weeks, at about the same time that we'll issue a larger post-Sandy recovery report that the Economic Development Corporation President Seth Pinsky is overseeing. At this time, I simply want to add that we've understood right from the start that helping businesses keep their doors open was critical to preserving jobs and reviving communities, and we have not waited for federal help before acting. Within days of the storm, we launched an emergency low-interest loan program, which our EDC, Goldman Sachs, and the New York Bankers Association have provided funds for. To date, it has given more than 630 businesses almost $14.3 million in loans, providing more than 400 businesses with $4 million in matching grants. And on average, our process for approving these loans and grants has taken less than 2 weeks' time, start to finish. We've taken other steps as well, like waiving sales taxes on business purchases of materials for Sandy recovery. So we've already done quite a lot on our own, and now these federal funds will help us do even more to help businesses affected by Sandy get back on their feet. Before turning things over to our other speakers, let me point out that the total of $1.77 billion in federal Sandy funds were received and will also cover, will also cover a variety of other programs. In addition to the $648 million for housing and $293 million for business recovery that I've just described, we've also received $360 million to cover the costs of Sandy-related infrastructure and city services expenses, some $177 million to cover city planning and administrative costs, and $294 million that's being set aside for resiliency improvements, which will be detailed in the larger post-Sandy recovery report that I mentioned earlier and that we're releasing shortly. That totals up to the $1.77 billion you've been keeping track in funding that we are summarizing today, which is the first installment of federal Sandy relief money that we're receiving. And we are very grateful for all the federal help that we've received since Sandy struck and that we're now getting as well. So, Secretary Donovan, thank you so much. When we let you go to Washington to join the Obama administration, we could not have foreseen that our paths would cross again in exactly this way. And that we're sad that we had the storm. We're very glad that you're leading the federal recovery effort. And now you have the floor.
Thank you. You're awesome. Congratulations. A little arm wrestling over the plan we're announcing today. So just give me a moment to get my remarks out. First of all, Mayor, thank you for hosting us here today. More importantly, thank you for your remarkable leadership in the wake of the storm. In my 4 years at the federal level, there is nothing quite like seeing a family that's been through a disaster like this, to see all of their worldly possessions, their home wiped away, to see their neighborhood decimated. And the work that you've done and your entire team have done to help this city recover as quickly and in a way that not only rebuilds but also prepares for the next storm has been remarkable to watch. So thank you for your leadership. I also want to say that we would not be standing here today if it were not for the members of the New York Congressional delegation that have joined us. In addition to the members of the House that you see here today, who did just phenomenal work to fight for this funding. Senators Schumer and Gillibrand as well did remarkable work. And we all know that in today's Congress, it is not easy to get something done on a bipartisan basis. This delegation came together on a bipartisan basis. It took too long to get this money passed, 3 months fully after the storm, until the president could sign it. But I'm glad that we've been able to move very, very quickly from that time to this announcement today. And I want to thank every member of the congressional delegation that's here, Congressman Meeks, Nydia Velazquez as well, who I've had a great chance to work with when I was here as well. Thank you for your leadership. I also want to acknowledge that we have members of our advisory group here, as well as a Brooklyn guy. I got to point out Marty Markowitz is with us. We formed an advisory group for the Sandy Task Force of local representatives and officials who have been working very closely with us to make sure that we're responding to the needs of communities on the ground. So thank you for joining us as well. As I said earlier, there is nothing quite like seeing a community or a family go through a storm like this. But for me personally, as a lifelong New Yorker, to know that I still have friends who lost family members, who are still out of their homes and businesses in Brooklyn and in other neighborhoods around this city, this recovery has been personal. And that's why I am so honored that the president named me as chair of the Hurricane Sandy Rebuilding Task Force. He asked me on the day after the election, he called me to say, Shaun, I need you to do this. And I want you to make sure that we get help as quickly and as effectively as possible to every family, every community that was hurt by this storm. And that's the work that we've done. And that is why I'm particularly happy to be here today to announce this funding. As the mayor said, today I am approving the New York City Action Plan that will allow the city to move forward in spending $1.77 billion in community development block grant funding that will help the city recover, not just to where it was, but smarter and stronger than before the storm. And let me just be clear about what this means. For a family who's been staying with relatives because other types of assistance, whether it was FEMA assistance or their insurance, wasn't enough to get them back in their flooded home, today means that they'll get the help that they need to move back into their home. It means that their child, who's been waking up in the morning on the couch and spending an hour getting to school every day, will be able to start getting their life back to normal. It means that a small business that's been shuttered since Sandy because it couldn't qualify for a disaster loan will finally be able to reopen its doors and begin hiring again. As these businesses reopen, stronger than ever, the main streets in the neighborhoods around this city, the boardwalks, will once again begin to resemble the pictures of them that we have etched in our minds, just in time for summer. New York City's plan is truly a neighborhood-based approach to disaster recovery. The city's approach will focus principally on meeting the immediate recovery needs for housing and business assistance in the communities affected by Sandy. As the mayor said, that includes $648 million for housing programs, $293 million for economic revitalization, and $654 million for infrastructure, resiliency, and public service. Most important about this CDBG assistance, it is the most flexible tool we have at the federal level. for local communities like New York City to determine how best to use the funds to meet the greatest unmet needs that remain. These funds help fill gaps that are not covered by other federal assistance, private insurance, or other sources. And I think it's important here to point out, as the mayor did, we haven't been waiting for this assistance to flow. From the very beginning, the Obama administration was on the ground. Within a week, we had 17,000 federal personnel in the region responding to the storm. To date, FEMA has already provided $1.2 billion in individual and public assistance just within New York City, and the Small Business Administration has provided over $1.4 billion in disaster recovery loans to businesses throughout New York State. That's funding that's gone directly to families, small businesses, and communities to help them get back in their homes or find temporary housing, to reopen stores and restaurants, and repair critical infrastructure. And the mayor pointed this out, but I would just congratulate him and the entire team, Cas and everybody else who worked on this. The first time we have ever, between FEMA and a local government, used this rapid repairs model. And had it not been for that effective use of both city and federal funding and initiative, we would have thousands, maybe tens of thousands more families that would be desperately waiting for assistance. Instead, they're back in their homes now because of the great work and partnership that was done on rapid repairs. I think it's also important that when the president asked me to lead this task force, he said, you need to go and be a true partner to the communities that we're working with. And so we've worked very closely with the city on getting this plan to a place where it can use this money as effectively and as quickly as possible. And one way that we do that is by making sure that we bring lessons from other places around the country, the Gulf Coast after Katrina and others, to help make sure that we're putting together the best possible plans. We're also taking steps to ensure there's region-wide coordination as we work to make our communities more resilient, through investments that will last for decades by addressing the increased flood risk posed by more extreme weather events and rising sea levels caused by climate change. In conclusion, what this announcement means today, what it demonstrates, is that America does not leave communities to pick up the pieces alone when disaster strikes. And the approval of this action plan will provide much-needed relief to those homeowners and businesses across the region still struggling to get back on their feet. The administration has been on the ground since Sandy struck and will be here until every street, every neighborhood, every family has recovered. We'll continue to bring the full resources of the federal government to bear as we rebuild in a way that makes communities stronger, more economically sustainable, and better able to withstand future storms. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for joining us today, and congratulations.
Shaun, thank you, and thank you for all the help and from all of your staff. And you couldn't be more right. Cas really was the genius behind the Rapid Recovery Plan and deserves some of the credit for it. Marty and I will take a little bit, Bob, Seth, everybody else. Seriously, it did make a very big difference. One of the people with us today is Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez. Nydia's district was heavily impacted by Hurricane Sandy. Nydia, you want to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shaun, Donovan, thank you so much. At a moment like this, where so many New Yorkers suffered so much, we were lucky in the sense that we got someone in charge of this task force that is not only a New Yorker, but he does understand what it takes to get the city of New York and to use his position as the Secretary of HUD to bring all of together and put a comprehensive plan that will enable the city of New York and the state of New York to recover and to rebuild to last. I am very grateful to Mayor Bloomberg and the administration officials who are here. I am not only a member representing a congressional district, but I am a neighbor. I lived in Red Hook. I saw what happened. I was displaced for 2 weeks. But I have to say that despite the suffering and the pain, it was just so gratifying to see how not only New Yorkers, came together, but the American people, to recognize that when natural disasters strike, there is a role for the federal government to play. That when natural disasters strikes, that Americans will be there assisting those victims. So I hope that next time it will not take this long to get disaster relief legislation passed in Congress. I don't think it will happen again because the American people understood that that is the time when togetherness help us rebuild faster and more swiftly. And this morning, Mr. Mayor, I was in Red Hook with an organization, Rebuilding Together, in a house that was damaged with 11 feet of water. He is a veteran from the Vietnam War, and he lost it all. And even when he lost his home, he went and opened another building that he has to house the many volunteers that came to Red Hook from every part of New York and every part of the country. That's what makes America great. And I am so happy that much of this money will go to assist not only public housing residents, but also homeowners, and especially those who didn't have in low-income communities flood insurance. And even those who had flood insurance, they have faced incredible hurdles to get the insurance company to help. But we have to understand that this is a process that is very convoluted and complex. And when people are suffering, they want to get the help and the assistance right away. And in terms of the small businesses, it's great that this money is going to come through the CDBG because it's going to give New York City more flexibility. At a time when small businesses suffered and were devastated, they do not need a disaster loan. What they need is money right away. And so CDBG will give this flexibility to the City of New York to be able to provide grants to small businesses so that they could help the local economy get back on track. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Congresswoman, thank you. Congressman Gregory Meeks represents the Rockaways, which is another area that you know was very hard hit by Hurricane Sandy. Congressman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, let me thank the President of the United States, Barack Obama, for selecting an individual as the mayor, and my colleague Nydia Velazquez said, who's a New Yorker, who understands the city and who has the ability to get things done. So, Shaun, Secretary Donovan, we thank you for you being here and guiding this ship. Let me also thank the mayor and his entire administration, because this was devastating for the entire city of New York. Clearly devastating to every single individual that lived in the Rockaways. Superstorm Sandy spared not one individual, not one. If you lived on the Rockaway Peninsula, everybody was devastated. Every business was devastated. But the mayor and his team, along with the secretary, did not think in the box. They thought out of the box, which is tremendously important. Learning from other storms and saying that let's not just follow what happened previously. We've got to be innovative. We've got to do something that had not been done before. We've got to make sure that we help individuals in a manner that they had not been helped before, learning from past disasters. Box, the mayor's team has been talked about, giving the assistance with rapid repairs, getting people back in their homes, because it would have been even a longer period of time, but for rapid repairs. If it's not for now, if we would be further down the road had we had not had the length of time that it took for us to deliver the money out of the federal government, but in a bipartisan way. The New Yorkers coming together, Democrats and Republicans, fighting to make sure that we get the money, even though it was 3 months later. With the entire congressional delegation and the Senate working together, we know that now we have help on the way. And so I look forward, Mr. Mayor, as we move forward, because our work is still full. And we look forward to working with you and your office so that we can develop the plan and make sure that the money gets down to the hands of these people, these good New Yorkers. Because if there's one thing that I can tell you about all New Yorkers, and I know specifically also about the Rockaways and the people that I represent, they refuse to stay down. They're not going to let a storm wipe them out. They're not going to give up hope. They're not going to abandon who they are and where they are. They are New Yorkers. They are strong. They are tough. They are resilient. They're getting back on their feet, and that's what they're talking about every time I speak to one, how they're going to make their lives better. The Rockaways will be back. It will be strong. It will be better than ever, and it's because of people working together. Thank you.
We are joined by Senator Schumer, who, as you know, has accumulated a lot of expertise and respect in Washington, and really, in all fairness, made an enormous difference in this process. Senator, everything has already been said, but it has not been said by everyone yet. You can come and rectify that.
Thank you. First, I want to say, Mayor, I got the memo. Pink shirt, blue tie, dark suit with pinstripes. I'm sure his are a little more expensive than mine.
Good tailor in Brooklyn. Where do you go?
J.C. Penney.
No. Fourth floor, a union shop.
Excellent. All right. It's great to be here.
Where President Clinton gets his clothes.
What do you get your... No. Let's all look at labels. All I can tell you is this was my best suit about 12 years ago, and I'm still wearing it. In any case, it's great to be here. I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg, Shaun, Donovan, and our delegation. Two of the great ones in our delegation are here. Nydia Velazquez, known as La Luchadora, the fighter, and Greg Meeks, known as my friend Greg Meeks. And all of the members here who work so hard, and the great, I have nicknames for most people. Mortimer, I don't know why. His nickname is Mortimer, and I'm Chuckles. And finally, of course, Shaun, Donovan, and his team. They have been just fabulous. We could not get anywhere. When the president announced that Shaun would be head of task force, we all in the delegation breathed a collective sigh of relief. We had someone who knew New York and someone who cared. Those would be the two criteria, and he did them. So this is great. This is where the rubber meets the road. We have homeowners, businesses, communities yearning for help. We all know that the old programs like FEMA and small business loans just didn't fit the bill for many and probably most of the people who were afflicted. And that is why we wrote with Shaun a CDBG program whose hallmark is flexibility. Because one size doesn't fit all. New York is a more expensive area than just about anywhere else, and the damage was so huge that we needed some flexibility, and that's what FEMA is. And so today, homeowners, small businesses can start breathing sighs of relief that now real help is on the way and money is available to help them in ways they need help. One of the great lessons we learned in Katrina was there was plenty of money, more than we had. But I would bet dollar for dollar we're using it much more effectively here. And one of the reasons is that Mary Landrieu helped guide us as to what went wrong with Katrina. And the number one thing she said is, if you just stick to the specific FEMA programs, most people who need help won't. And there'll be money here and help needed here, and the twain will never meet. So now real money will flow, and it'll flow to people who need it. Homeowners will start seeing reimbursement for repairs they've had to make. Businesses will start seeing funds for new equipment. And I just want to touch on a few important aspects that were in this plan. First, co-ops and condos can help recover. Again, this is an example, because of FEMA's goofy laws, the common areas of co-ops and condos were not covered. So your apartment was covered, but not the boiler. Made no sense. Co-ops and condos will now be covered, and I presume it will be generous amounts of money for that. We've been told, oh, they'll be covered, but we don't know how much. Say generous.
As long as the mayor wants to
say generous
amounts.
We'll be talking about it.
I set up the T-ball for him, and he doesn't swing. Story of, well, anyway. I will do everything I can to see that it be generous amounts of money for condos and co-ops, for fixing boilers and fixing lobbies. Second, mitigation for home buyers, homeowners. The great problem we face. We can't just move our houses up to a hill. We have hundreds of thousands of houses along the water, and this idea that we should either tear them down and not build anything in its place or people could move somewhere else is gone. But to just rebuild them the way they were made no sense. To allow them to build so they will be, if not storm-proof, far more storm-resistant is the way to go. The program allows that to happen. We pushed hard for that to happen in the delegation. Shaun there will be the first to admit that we will be generous about mitigation.
We'll be providing just the right amount.
Exactly, which means generous in New Yorkese. And so that will be important as well. And finally, we will, there's going to be a private company to do it, but mold is a big problem, and that's going to work out as well, and that's very important too. So this is a good day for New York, a red letter day on our road to recovery, and I thank all of the people here for making it happen. Apologize for being late. Thank you.
Chuck, seriously, thank you for everything you and Nydia and Gregory did. Let me just summarize for our Spanish-speaking audience. El Gobierno Federal ha aprobado la mejor parte de nuestros planes de recuperación del Hurricane Sandy. Casi 1.8 mil millones ahora están disponibles para ayuda a los negocios, dueños y casas y comunidades que fueron afectadas. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions.
What you're saying is mucho dinero.
Sir?
Exactly that. See? Yeah.
Rich?
Mr. Mayor, you did say that there will be, at some date in the future, you'll be announcing when applications can...
Yeah, it's 10 days for a number, roughly. Is that fair?
Sure.
About
it's 2 different days.
Okay, good.
Then what does that mean in terms of when the money will arrive or could arrive?
Sure. So first point to make is we already have a number of assistance programs that are up and running and have been running really since right after the storm. So this is going to build on that foundation. So it's not we'll be able to bring more people in, but we have those programs going. Business program applications will start to be taken on May 20th. That's, I think, a week from Monday.
From today.
And then we think that the home programs applications will be able to start people applying through 311 and online in the first couple weeks of June. So, and then after that, on the business programs, you'll be put with an account specialist. So, and then in the home side, you'll be put with a home recovery specialist. So in each case, as the mayor said, you will have an individual, an agent who's going to be working on your behalf throughout this process. And there's work that has to be done because, as Shaun said, this covers unmet need. So an assessment will have to be done with each person in each business what gaps do you have that are remaining to be filled. But we're going to make that process as smooth, seamless, and customer-friendly as possible. And that's why we're setting it up this way.
Yes, in the back.
Dana Rubenstein, Capital New York. So will money be made available to residents who want to raise their homes? Is that correct?
Raise meaning rise?
Elevate them, so that they...
Yeah, go ahead. So the short answer is yes. There are 3 different pathways of programs. Some homes were completely destroyed. HPD and Matt Wambua's team is going to be the point team on helping to do that. Some homes will be substantially damaged, and that's an economic calculation. I think everybody in this room is probably familiar with that now, but if it's 50%, the cost of repair is 50% more than the pre-Sandy value of the home. In those cases, both those cases, the reimbursement, the money that you'll be entitled to will also include mitigation to help elevate homes. Then there are some repairs that fall to a lower level, so it won't be in every case. But in many cases, we are projecting thousands of cases, there will be funding to elevate.
Let me just build on that. I think it's very important, that and the prior question, to recognize, as Cas said, there has been billions of dollars available to help families rebuild their homes. The problem has been, particularly in a high-cost area like this, by law, FEMA can only provide just over $30,000. Obviously, where there's private insurance, that is going to be the very first step for homeowners to be able to settle with their insurance companies and rebuild. What we're really focused on here, and this goes to the elevation point, is the homes that were most severely damaged. And there, it's very important that we make sure that we're not putting those families in harm's way the next time a storm comes. We know that while Sandy was a very unusual storm, that as climate change and other events move forward, that folks are going to be at risk unless we do something now. And so we've both set, we announced a few weeks ago for the first time ever, the federal government has set a single standard for all this funding that we're providing, that communities have to use the latest science available for what current flood risk is, and then add a foot to that to account for climate change and rising sea levels over time. But it's critical that we don't just say, you have to meet this standard and then not provide help. So this announcement today is the funding that will allow those homes that were substantially damaged to be able to elevate or take the other steps that are necessary. I used to live in a brownstone in Brooklyn. It's not like you're going to elevate all the brownstones, right? So it's not just elevation, it's also the other critical steps that you can take, whether it's raising mechanicals, floodproofing, other things that can be done as well to protect those communities.
Grace?
Grace Rao from New York One. Two questions. One is, for the housing recovery, are homeowners, the income of homeowners taken into account, and is the size of a grant based more on the damage to a home or sort of a family's ability to afford making those repairs themselves? And secondly, on the business grants, is any of this money for new businesses? There's mention of the game changer investment competition. So is the idea to give all this money to existing businesses that were there during the storm, or is there some room for new businesses to apply for this money?
I can talk about sort of from the federal perspective and then obviously the city perspective. So first of all, what I think is critical is that federal resources should be focused on those who can't rebuild themselves. And so that's why we make sure if there's private insurance there, that has to come first. None of this money can be used to what we call duplicate benefits. It is only to meet needs that aren't being met by other sources. It's also important that we focus it on those who are most vulnerable from an income level. And so there's a standard in the legislation that says that at least half of the money has to go to low and moderate income individuals. And typically what we would see is a higher share than that would go to them as well. So in a case where the Small Business Administration offers loans to a homeowner, which they do right after disaster, if someone can afford to repay a low-interest loan, that should be the first choice for them. Where they can't afford it because of income level or other debts, whatever it might be, then we can provide the grants through CDBG. But it's always going to be the first choice is to target this money at those who need it most.
Seth, want to answer?
Yeah, and on the business side, our first priority is to help the businesses that were actually affected by the storm to recover and to reopen. And the first monies that are going to go out the door will be for that. There is money in this, as you pointed out, for the Game Changers competition. This is going to try to bring new investments into some of the communities that were most severely impacted by the storm. Some of those could be new investments by businesses that haven't previously been there. Some of them may be new investments by businesses that have. We'll have to see what the proposals are. But the idea is that we want to make sure that as these neighborhoods recover, we don't just restore them to the state that they were in before the storm, but that they're better and more prosperous than they were before.
And if you think that's unusual, in the 9/11 money, we actually had money for new businesses that would locate downtown. That's typical in a well-thought-out disaster relief package.
In the back, sir.
Thank you. Mathew Sherman, WNYC Radio. I think this question may be both for Mayor Bloomberg and Secretary Donovan. Going back to the mitigation idea, so I'm looking at your plan and I see that you said that there's about maybe $3 billion in unmet need to mitigate all the damaged houses, and then even another $9 billion to elevate all of the undamaged buildings in A and B zones. Why, after a $60 billion Sandy A bill, do we still see that this will not actually elevate all the homes that were damaged, let alone all the homes that are at risk of being damaged in the future?
Yeah, so first of all, and this hasn't been said thus far, what we are announcing today is the first roughly 1/3 of the CDBG funding. So there is additional funding from CDBG, the majority of it still that can be added to these programs or can go to other programs like longer-term infrastructure investments that we expect in the future. These are also not the only funds that can be used. For example, there are many private owners who will be able to afford over time making those investments, and particularly with the costs of flood insurance, should they not elevate, those may be sound decisions for them to make on their own. We also have other funding, whether it's from the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program that FEMA has. There are other sources of funds to elevate homes or businesses that may be at risk. So you should not think of today's announcement as the only source of funding that will be available. And in fact, this is not even the majority of funding that will be available, but it's critical that we begin these programs, get them started. And I have the authority going forward to add more money to these programs if the city requests, or to move them between categories if the demand exceeds the supply of funding that we have.
Miss?
You might have seen out in the Rockaways the other day, there were some folks talking about mold and saying that they hope that the CDBG money would include a specific pot for mold remediation to expand on what the mayor's fund has been doing.
Yep.
Is that happening?
Yep.
And or was consideration given?
Sure. Well, the short answer is yes. It's not a separate pot, but as part of the repairs that could be done under there's a small repairs program and substantially damaged. In either of those cases, if there's mold that needs to be remediated, it can be remediated as part of the scope of work. I should note that, as you said, the Mayor's Fund started a program that we've already have 1,200 homes that are in the pipeline, and many hundreds of them have already been helped. And that has been a program that's been very well received. But now with this funding in place, and this was able us to get a big head start, homeowners, all they need to do is sign up, come to us, and as part of the assessment, if mold remediation needs to be done, it can be done.
Thank you, everyone. This is a big step, but it is just one step. Roughly a third of the money, as Shaun said. We once again want to thank our congressional delegation for helping us get the money, but they can be assured we are going to account for every single penny in a ways that I think has never been done before. We've sent detailed plans to Washington as we make decisions as to how the money is going to be spent, and we will keep them updated so that the public around the country who's provided these funds know that they are actually making a difference. Thank you, and have a nice weekend.